What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Reservoir Wolves. You got Mike Anthony today, as per usual, and we are discussing something that we have been hesitant to discuss as of yet, and that is Star Wars The Last Jedi. Because we have a lot to discuss on this matter, we decided to split up this into several topics. So we're going to do a series of videos, and each video is going to be a different topic. We decided to tackle the Luke Skywalker issue, because that is something that we both feel very strongly about. We have split this video into 6 different sections. That's going to be character assassination, falling from grace, subverting expectations, personal reasoning, the gray area, and the flaws of Jake Skywalker. Because this is, like I said, this is a heated conversation for us. We have scripted a lot of what we're going to present in this video because we want to avoid going on rants, although we have left some room for that and for natural conversations to progress. Before we begin, we also want to say that we think there's no problem with liking this film. This is purely our subjective opinion, and if you like The Last Jedi, we respect that. We're not here to tell you you're wrong. We're here to tell you, this is how we feel about this film, and kind of tell you that you're wrong, but it's okay to be wrong. Anthony, anything you want to add before we begin?
Not really. Just this is how we feel, and
we've been wanting to do this for a while. So
yeah, and if you do like how he is in the movie, we respect that.
Yeah. We've put a lot of work into this one. We put a lot of research into this. We both feel very strongly about Luke Skywalker and the way he was handled in The Last Jedi, so we're just going to jump right in, okay? So first and foremost, the one thing that we think we can all agree is that Luke Skywalker suffered from the most blatant and horrible example of character assassination. All other things about this film aside, Luke's treatment is what killed it for us, mainly, and for a lot of other people. The movie could have been a steaming pile of shit, which it was, but had they delivered on Luke Skywalker, we would have still semi-enjoyed it. I think we can both agree on that, right, Anthony?
Yeah, I agree. And the only thing to add to that is, like, even if you did like this movie, I've talked to a lot of people who do like this movie, and even them can agree that they didn't like the way that he died.
Right.
And I think that's a great example. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of things that everyone can agree on with this movie, even people who are on both sides of the spectrum, because whatever you say about this movie, it has split the fans down the middle, with people either loving it or people despising it. There are some certain things that everyone can agree objectively were bad. That's with Leia flying through space and obviously the way Luke died. So you can love what they did with Luke and how they made him into the person that he was, but I think a lot of us can agree that him dying was kind of whack.
Yeah.
Kind of like he shows up, force projects himself, doesn't die, and then dies. So it's kind of anticlimactic, at least from a film point of view. And I would have never believed something that could happen. It's Luke fucking Skywalker. We've waited 40 plus years to see this guy be a badass and fuck shit up, and then boom. And I never read the extended universe or whatever it's called, Legends now, but Anthony has read a lot of them, and Anthony, he did a lot of research in finding all the badass moments that this guy had, and we didn't even get a glimpse of that. Anthony, can you tell us a little bit what this guy, how much shit he's fucked up in now the non-canon universe?
I'm gonna go ahead and say that really quick. I respect the fact that they plainly didn't want to copy like how he was in Legends.
Yeah.
But before I dive into Legends, I think the biggest problem was that he just didn't feel like Luke whatsoever.
Right.
And that is exactly what we mean by character assassination. And I get some of you guys are like, no, this makes sense, but we came to a point where we've broken down so many aspects of why it is character assassination.
Yeah, and we have more of that later on. The next section we have is called Falling from Grace, and quote unquote No Hope, which is pretty much dives deeper into what Luke meant to a lot of people and what he would symbolize, and how that just wasn't what we got. And like Anthony's saying, I know they didn't want to take anything from Legends, but there's still some pretty badass moments that they could have at least adapted.
Yeah, I've heard some people say that in Legends that Luke is too perfect, but as somebody who's read a lot, Luke struggles and goes through numerous character parts. So, like, there's even a whole arc where he's extremely into the dark side because he's basically like secretly an apprentice to the new Palpatine. There's also a part where he spares another Sith. My bad, and I'm sorry for like butcher this name. It's Limaya, and it was like showing you how he still like had that tendency to believe in everybody, even at their worst.
Yeah.
And then what I liked about Legends is that, unlike Vader, when he spared Vader, this actually kind of comes back and bites in the ass. Like, way later on down the line, like in further books, this girl becomes one of the biggest villains, and he has to overcome that mistake, and he actually has to fight her to the death.
Oh, damn.
And you have that as an example. You have the whole struggle that with a lot of people like Legends with Mara Jade, like she was sent there to assassinate him, and he's able to get to her, and basically they end up eventually getting together, and that's what the Skywalker family starts.
The fucking, right?
Yeah. But besides that, like it's also done very well because like he puts so much faith into her, someone who's super dark, and she basically becomes very good in the light side, and she even saves him later on when he gets too much into the dark side. So he's not perfect. And a final example is that later on, when there's like after he has become the Jedi Master, like he has like a whole army of basically Jedis, war starts to break out, and he struggles with that because the Jedi aren't supposed to be.
They're not supposed to be
soldiers, and that's perfect parallels to, and it's good writing because it parallels to like the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And a lot what remind me of that whole part about him not being a soldier, because there's another part here that I want to bring that up again. All right, so for our next section, which ties in well to what Anthony just finished saying, is the falling from grace, in parentheses, no hope. Luke Skywalker. This was a man who's not only a film icon, but a hero to generations of countless people in real life. Not just in the galaxy far, far away, but here, our galaxy. He resembled hope. He faced incredible evil and overcame it. He saw the good in his father, Darth fucking Vader, the most evil person in the galaxy, who's blatantly known as a villain. He's committed unbelievable acts of violence and evil. Yet he was tempted, even for a second, to murder his nephew in his sleep because he might turn to the dark side in The Last Jedi. Because something he might have seen in a vision. I don't know what they mentioned that he looked into his mind and saw some evil acts. Like, yeah, bro, like worse than Vader? I doubt it. No, I don't think so. That's not Luke Skywalker. Rian Johnson's idea of this character is so warped in his own vanity that he not only didn't understand the character, he did not care about what Luke Skywalker meant to people. And notice how I say people and not fans, because Rian Johnson has turned the word fans into a curse word. That's a conversation for another day. Some people will argue that not every hero is perfect, and that Luke's arc could have turned dark regardless, kind of like what happened in Legends, but in my opinion, worse than what happened in Legends. I feel like what happened in Legends, from what Anthony's told me, is a lot cooler. But whatever. And I agree with that. However, to say that Luke turned to a grumpy old man who turned away for everything he stood for and for the bleak and honestly stupid reasoning that Rian Johnson gave is not only destroying the character, but it's also destroying what he did in the OT, in the old trilogy. And it's honestly, I think, lazy writing. Luke, he had his ideals. Like he had a trilogy of movies setting his ideals. He went from that innocent farm boy to the cocky wannabe Jedi in Empire, and then self-actualizing as a Jedi Knight. And Anthony has a lot of good examples of how there's been a bunch of comics and books and tie-ins of that expand on Luke's character, but on the Luke's character that we all know. Like there's been plenty of times that he's like saved people when he doesn't even have to, right?
Yeah, even in the what's considered canon, so it ties into this. It shows him going like back to even as a kid, that he's like started to develop his idealistic viewpoint. What makes Luke, the willingness to think the best of everybody, to believe like that people can be redeemed no matter what, and then even to the point where he constantly risks himself to save other people. Like, that's what Luke is. Look at like an Empire Strikes Back. Everything's against him. Yeah. He literally, like, anything can go wrong. He goes to Cloud City by himself.
Yeah, with Obi-Wan and Yoda telling him not to.
Yeah, and, like, to say that, like, this character that we see, and if you really look at these last, like, those original trilogy movies and you break them down, like, Luke loses, like, both his aunt and uncle in the first movie, and he doesn't just break down and give up there.
Right.
He joins basically the rebellion, and he helps Obi-Wan, who's also like his uncle, and then he dies too.
Yeah.
And then what does Luke do? He leads
an attack.
Yeah. And then it's just, there's so many examples.
Yeah, he basically came back. Like, it's a bunch of examples of him, of dealing with adversity and then coming back even better. And that's kind of like going to lead into my next point. We in fiction and pop culture, we had these stories where, the hero faces something and overcomes it. But this guy, Rian Johnson, wanted to have it like some way where, he comes back worse, and that's just, we have all these movies and everything just pointing in the opposite direction. And it honestly, Obi-Wan Kenobi lost an entire way of life. He lost his academy. He lost all his friends. And didn't he lose like a lover or something that you were telling me about?
Yeah, in Clone Wars, he loses Satine. Like the best way to say it is that the way that Rian Johnson did this whole thing, it's not like we're all cool with having a troubled Luke, a conflicted Luke, but it was just done really bad. Yeah. We talk about it more later on.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, it's easy to say a hero has fallen from grace. It really is. And how many movies do we have like that already? We've seen that a million times. Logan, The Dark Knight Rises, The Road, Sons of Anarchy, Children of Men, even the game The Last of Us. They all have someone who was a protagonist of their story and experienced some form of hardship, and at some point they became withered shadows of their former selves. And most of these characters, if not all, had arguably valid reasons to turn from their past selves. Like, you can see it. It's, Joel in The Last of Us, you have a whole part there where he loses his daughter. Logan lost all his X-Men. In The Dark Knight, Batman had no reason to be Batman anymore. So it's like all these things that they really have to overcome, but it's thought out, and it doesn't ruin your idea of the character. And it doesn't ruin your resonance with the character. It doesn't take you out of that bond that you have with the character, and what happened here, it's simply not that's not what happened with Luke. He wasn't given that kind of respect. He wasn't given a proper reason to turn. It becomes a scumbag, and I think, and people are saying, oh my God, it's good writing, it's deep, it's dark. No, it's really, when you really think about it, especially in 2018, it's really easy to come up with dark stuff. It's really easy to come up with a reason why, or to say a hero has fallen from grace. It's really easy to have a character and say, okay, 30 years have passed and now he's a huge piece of shit. It's much harder to say that, yet come up with a reason for them not to be a huge piece of shit, for them not to have fallen. That to me is what's crazy. Good writing.
And then adding on to that, Rian Johnson didn't really commit to that good reason for Luke to be the way he is, or even close to it.
He didn't want to. He just wanted.
He just said no and made it simple. And he the best way to explain it is another way they could have done it was, let's say Luke ran into Kylo actually already committing what they say in Force Awakens, that Kylo started to kill the apprentices and stuff.
Yeah,
it would have been better because it would have been to Luke's character, where Luke kind of fights him, defeats him, but Luke can't bring himself to kill him.
Yeah,
and then there you have this Luke who, that is his regret. That's where he feels like he failed.
Yeah,
and that would make sense to more to his character. And then with Rian Johnson, not only do we not get something similar to that, we get somebody who doesn't care anymore. And that's the problem. It would have been okay if Luke was like lost faith in the Jedi or something. No,
Yeah.
we got Luke who doesn't care that millions of people are dying.
Yeah.
Doesn't care that his sister can die at any moment. Didn't care that Han Solo died the day before.
Yeah.
That's the reason why that a lot of fans are mad. And I get like if you mind you don't like you like the movie, I get it, but like you gotta understand why people are mad too.
It's because we're not. It's not just hardcore fans. Any fan. It's 2018. Everyone loves pop culture. Everyone loves movies. We like having fleshed out stories. You know, excuse me. So I think it's a classic example of Rian Johnson. It's not just Luke in this movie, but a bunch of other things. It's kind of like the plot is getting, or the script. I heard someone say it a little more eloquently than myself. It was pretty much like he wanted to tell a story, and he didn't care about what pieces he had to move. He wanted to tell this story, the whole thing about the fuel and the First Order being just far enough behind the Resistance to not be able to shoot at them. Like, those things don't really make any sense. But Rian Johnson wants there to be an intense chase battle. He wants his characters to go on this side quest. You know, he's kind of like his story is getting ahead of plot. It's getting ahead of natural development. So in terms of Luke, he didn't. I don't think he really cared, you know, about not only Luke but Luke's story, why he became the way he was. So you had J.J. Abrams setting all this stuff up with this mystery box approach, and then Rian Johnson just like, I don't give a fuck about that. I have my little fan fiction that I want to put into Star Wars, and I don't care if it makes sense. I just want to tell this story, even if it doesn't make any sense. You know? Are you gonna say something?
No, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And it's sad. Like,
Yeah. All right, so on the next section, and it ties in perfectly to what we're saying, subverting expectations. A phrase I hadn't really heard much of until Rian Johnson decided to use it as his savior for his movie. In Rian Johnson fashion, he sought out to subvert expectations, and air quotes. Okay, that's fine, but the way he did it with Luke Skywalker is absolute bullshit. Vader being Luke's father is subverting expectations. The Sixth Sense is subverting expectations. Kaiser fucking Sorsay is subverting expectations. As a storyteller, you subvert expectations to move the story forward in ways the audience could not have foreseen, and in ways that would move the story forward. Rian Johnson made Luke into a milk-sucking hermit coward because we all knew that was the farthest thing from Luke Skywalker. Like many of the other subversions, Luke's role in this film was constructed in that way, and not for the better of the story, but as an exact reaction to fan responses from The Force Awakens. Anthony and I, we saw Force Awakens, we loved it, you know, and like us, millions of other people flocked to the internet and created and saw a multitude of fan theories and speculations for what their favorite Jedi was doing. You know, why was he there? What has he been doing? What did he do or learn in the First Jedi Temple? Why is he at the First Jedi Temple? Why did he create a map to find himself? Where has he been? You know, and then Rian Johnson just took that momentum and turned it on itself. You know, like, he just decided to do the complete opposite of what everyone wanted for the point of that. And that's not how stories are supposed to work. You're not supposed to write your story based on audience's reactions. You're supposed to just tell your story, because it takes people out of the movie. 50 years from now, people are going to look at these movies and be like, what the hell is going on? We get it. For better or worse, we get it, because we know that he's subverting our expectations because of the last movie, and we were expecting so much. But 50 years from now, people are going to watch these movies and be like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, and basically, like, the subversion, like, a lot of people are like, oh, it's ingenious, but if you really break it down, guys, it's really lazy. Like, he didn't subvert it in a new path. He basically just said that Luke did nothing.
Right.
It's just a giant no. And it's something that, if you really look at it, it's with everything. It's with Rey's whole reason why she's super strong.
Yeah.
With her parents. It was just a simple no. There was no really, like, anything explained or built up why she's that strong.
Just brick walls.
Yeah. It was just a no. With Snoke, it was just a no. With Kylo Ren's training and everything else, the reason why he killed, like, Han Solo, the Knights of Ren, no. And then going back to Luke, like, the subversion was there. It could have been great. Like, we could have had, like, he's at the first Jedi Temple, and you could have had this whole cool, like, we get to see this stuff with a Jedi that we've never seen before.
It's lazy.
But he's there not to, like, continue becoming a Jedi, but just to find a way to defeat Snoke. You could have had this conflicted Luke who, because of what's happened, he doesn't believe in the Jedi Order, but still being Luke, he believes that good needs to prevail.
Yeah.
And then you have this Luke that everyone still loves. You know, he's still conflicted, and he's going through stuff, but because of that, he's still the Luke that everyone likes, and he has the possibility to go anywhere with the story. He can go back to being a Jedi. He can just defeat Snoke and walk away. He can start something brand new. That's another thing. Like, this Snoke, I thought was the best thing because they could have done something new. Like, they were Force Awakens, they were teasing the fact that he wasn't even a Sith.
Yeah. I just like what you were saying something earlier, and it kind of lit up a spark in my head. It's kind of like, you know, Luke's at the first Jedi Temple. Okay, why? And that's been a question we've all had. And people are praising this movie like it's so genius. Like, he literally just got every point from the last movie and said no. That's not good writing. Like, that's very lazy. That's like, you know, we're playing a game of telephone and you start off a sentence and it gets to me and I'm like, nah. You know, like, he could have gone so many different other ways anyway, actually, and we would have been okay. Honestly, depending on what it was. But to just say no, like, for Luke Skywalker, it's Luke fucking Skywalker. Like, we've been waiting 40 years, not me, not us, but everyone who watched the first original trilogy have been waiting years to see what this guy's been up to. And you shat all over him. You turned him into a piece of shit. Like, you can, like, I don't understand how anyone can ever be okay with that. And I don't understand what Rian Johnson was thinking. It makes me think that he's just an ass. Like, he's just a malicious ass who just hated what Luke Skywalker stood for, and he wanted to make his own pessimistic version. And honestly, I probably think that even reflects on him, because it doesn't have to be that way. Like, our heroes don't have to fall all the time. Like, that's Luke fucking Skywalker, man. Turned him into, like, how do you see, like, imagine being someone who saw the original trilogy and had Luke being your inspiration in life, and then you see him in a movie sucking some giant quadriplegic's tit.
Yeah.
Come on.
So, look, we're all in for change. Like, a character can change.
Yeah.
But not to their, like, complete morals. Like, look, best way I can get to it is look at Logan. Okay. The movie Logan. You had Wolverine at his worst. Yeah. But deep down inside, with his instincts and everything, it was still remnants of the old Wolverine. He didn't just, like, once everything started to go, like, down, he could have just been like, here's the girl, I'm cool. Like, that's it. Credits roll.
Well, with Logan, it's also like you could, like you said, you can still see that there's part of Logan, even his, like, his lowest in the movie Logan. You can still see that he has an inner struggle, and he wants to be an X-Men again. And in all his other movies, it wasn't like he was a shining knight of armor. Like, he was always a kind of pessimistic, dark character, but that's good. That's his character. And then in Logan, it's still there. I have my own feelings about the movie. I like the movie. I have my own reservations about it. But like Anthony's saying, that he even had a good reason to give up. Like, that was dark. Like, everything that happened to these X-Men, and then I'm not going to spoil what happens for the rest of the movie, but that's a very flushed out reason as to why your hero in the movie has fallen. And then obviously it's a superhero movie, so it doesn't really stay that way. But, I don't want to give away too much. This movie, you have Luke being a huge pile of shit with a really bad reason for it, and then he never stops being a bad piece of shit. Like, his little force projection later, that doesn't count. But I'll get into that now. Let's get on this. Go ahead.
Just the last thing is that the best way you can get, like, this feels so much not like Luke that technically, if Rian Johnson wanted to, this could have been a random Jedi that gave up, and it would have made sense. It would have fit perfectly. And you can't do that with other movies. That's how you know other movies. That's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
If you can't do like movie Logan without Wolverine.
Yeah.
Like
you could look. Luke Skywalker in this movie could have been some random ass other guy, and it would have been. You would have been like, okay, cool. She's another random guy because they literally have nothing. He has nothing in comparison. It's similar to Luke. Like that's like a totally different character. All right. So moving on. So after The Force Awakens, the possibilities were endless. You know, say what you will about The Force Awakens and J.J. Abrams, but at least it set up Luke Skywalker to come back strong. Something we've been waiting for. Anthony, I've been waiting 27 years. Anthony's been waiting, well, how old are you? 22 years? Since you were born. We've been waiting for this. And my dad's been waiting for 40 years. Forever. You know? So Rian Johnson heard all these questions, all these theories, all these speculations, and consciously decided to do the opposite for the sake of doing the opposite. And that, we think, is very lazy. And that shows a complete lack of respect for Star Wars and the character that was Luke Skywalker.
Let me add on to that really quick. Like I would say he even went beyond doing the opposite. Like we talked about before, he just said no. Because I would have like a really quick example is like everyone was Snoke. Everyone was praising that he was Plagueis. Yeah. Rian Johnson could have easily had said that he's a brand new character, but from like the old Republic. He would have. Everyone would have freaked out.
Or a brand new character.
Subvert a brand new character from like.
Even make up your own character.
Yeah, like, anything. A brand new character from an old timeline that is that strong, and like you can create endless possibilities. But just with like Luke, he didn't do that. He just said no,
and he just killed him.
And that's it. You just said like that's it.
You're right. So it's more than doing the opposite. It's negative. You're in the negative.
If you see Rian Johnson, he says that he's like your fan theories all suck, and I'm like, okay, fan theories are fan theories, but you didn't do anything.
Well, yeah. We'll get into why Rian Johnson's a piece of shit in a different video, because we have source material for that for days, because. You're right. He did nothing, and he did more than nothing. He just decided to do damage.
And then, with basically like Luke and a couple other things, even like connecting to The Force Awakens, it kind of feels like he just like stripped it down. Like if you look at Luke, he basically, like you said, doesn't seem like Luke. Mm-hmm. So it kind of this movie felt like they just redid Luke's story in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
How there's this nobody character. And by the end of the movie, he's a hero, which
we'll get
brings up so many problems.
And one last thing, it's kind of like they spent so much time at Canto Bight they couldn't have those 45 minutes, telling us why Luke is the way he is. Whatever. Let's move on. All right. So our next point is personal reasons. I have a personal stake in Luke Skywalker. I'm sure there are plenty of fans in the fandom that have a personal stake in Luke Skywalker. Mine's is that when my grandfather passed away, my father gave a eulogy in which he referenced Luke as his inspiration. He said that my grandfather taught him the value of being good and to stick up for what is good always. Quote unquote, he said, when I'm faced with adversity and I feel like giving up, I shout no. I pick up my lightsaber and I proclaim that I am a Jedi, like my father before me. And that always stuck with me. He was saying that the values of his father were like those of a Jedi, and he was going to strive for that always. His father had been his hero, and he was mine, and Luke was both of ours. And Rian Johnson, in his own pathetic, lazy, pessimistic fan fiction, turned our hero into a grumpy old man. And that, to me, shows a complete lack of respect for what Luke stood for. You want to touch on that?
No, I agree. And
Anthony was there.
A lot of people have personal reasons, and the fact that, like, if you really look at it, and it's because there's so many continuity issues and so many inconsistencies, that this does feel like it's Rian Johnson's personal fan fiction story.
Yeah, because if George Lucas had done it, it would have been, okay, this is Star Wars, but Disney has been in very thin ice and very uncharted waters. Like, you're taking someone else's personal property and turning it into basically everything after this could be considered like, okay, this is their version of it, but people don't feel that way with Force Awakens. I don't feel like that with Force Awakens, because I feel like Force Awakens was at least still respectful to what came before. This one was just like, we don't give a shit about what came before.
It was even disrespectful to Force Awakens in some ways. Like
yeah. So yeah, that's it's just really it's so like, and this is a very special and unique situation because this is once in a lifetime. Let's say you make a Superman movie and you botch it, it's okay because there's been a million different Supermans. There's been Christopher Reeves, there's been now Henry Cavill, whoever else plays Superman. Same thing with Batman. You can make a bad Batman movie and be like, oh my god, they ruined this character. Okay, but that's fine because you still have the Dark Knight series. They ruined Luke's character because it's Mark Hamill. Like, that's never going to happen again. That's it. There's no redos. They can't remake Star Wars and be like, oh no, this is the good guy. He's always been a symbol of hope. No, like they ruined it and they did it on purpose. And we'll make a whole other video about how they reacted to our reaction because it's unacceptable. But we live in a timeline where Luke was a piece of shit, and that's it.
Yeah,
and that was our hero. Like that was my dad's hero. That was my hero. Your hero. That was Luke stood. Like we've had plenty of mediums and stories where the hero goes bad, and that's gonna go into my next point. But you did not need to do this to Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, and then just really quick before
go ahead.
Our next point. Like we're all about respecting everyone's opinion, so I can already tell. I know that some of you guys maybe are thinking like, oh, you never know, episode 9 might fix everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like I'm gonna go ahead and say like, you know what, I will give episode 9 a chance because we do love Star Wars. But even if episode 9 is the best Star Wars movie ever,
yeah,
this movie, these things are a trilogy, and the fact that you have this movie in the middle and what they did to Luke in the middle. Yeah. No matter how great episode 9 is, there's gonna be some problems still. But
I just think like you said, like it's a trilogy, and this guy came in and was just like, we had a layup. Force Awakens was a layup. Here's Luke Skywalker. Here's all this, and then he just grabbed the basketball and like threw it into the crowd, and then the game was over.
With that, like really quick, it's 50-50. It's 50 Ryan Johnson's ideas and faults, and then it's also
Kathleen Kennedy's.
This is the concept of having a trilogy a trilogy movies all directed by different people that all have 100% control.
And it's not all planned out.
Is like, guys, like really quick. Everyone can admit that if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, or even if you're not, the Lord of the Rings trilogy
just read my mind,
is incredible.
Yeah.
And they were all filmed and written by Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
They were filmed back to back.
And he had it all written before the Fellowship even started filming.
And then I'm gonna go on a leg and say that a leg. I'm gonna rip my leg off. That if the Avengers Part 4 is gonna be great, and it's because they're filming it just like Lord of the Rings did. Like it's the same two great directors, and they're doing it back to back. Same team. There's no one that can come in there and be like, guess what? Thanos is the main guy. Everyone else is going to stay dead.
Yeah. All right, moving on. All right, so we call the next section the gray. You're talking to people who love Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is my personal favorite series, books. I love them. I see my favorite characters fall all the time. I'm not going to get into spoiler territory. I'm just going to quote some people here. Like Davos Seaworth said, he believed that the world is more gray than black and white, and I myself believe that. No one is perfect, and everyone makes mistakes. Like Stannis Baratheon says, the good does not wash out the bad, nor the bad the good. And I understand the value and lessons to be learned from watching our characters fall and rise up again. But that's not what happened here. Luke's fall was terribly conceived, and honestly, it should have never even happened to begin with because of what Luke stood for to begin with, and that is hope. Everyone loves Star Wars. Everyone who loves Star Wars could always go back and use Luke for inspiration. No matter how hard things got, and no matter how many people are against you, you can still win. He was instructed by Obi-Wan and Yoda, 2 Jedi Masters, his mentors, that all hope for his father had been gone. And yet Luke believed in Darth Vader regardless. It was his father. He saw the good in him. Despite everything pointing the other way, Luke turned Vader back to the light. And Vader became the Return of the Jedi. So Luke destroyed the Empire. brought balance to the Force, and restored hope to the galaxy. Where in The Force Awakens, Rey and Finn barely even know Luke is real or not. He's like a myth, and Luke doesn't even resemble what he resembled before. He didn't resemble hope, and he symbolized even that our heroes can fall, but rise up again. That's because that's what happened in Empire Strikes Back. He kind of falls, and he came back a Jedi Knight. And then he believed in his father, and then he brought Darth Vader back to the light side. So Force projecting himself into intergalactic Skype call, which ends up killing you in the long run, to confront your nephew while you're telling him you give up on him, to save 12 people in a cave, does not constitute saving the galaxy, resparking your legend, and giving hope to the galaxy. I don't care what dolls a little broom kid is playing at the end of the movie. That's not the equivalent of saving the galaxy and turning Darth Vader back to the good. That's just fucking lazy writing.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I agree, and you can have someone fall, you can have someone go through hell, but with Luke, it's like he fell for a very small reason, and he decided to chill and not care about anything else. Yeah. So, it's brutal.
Yeah, man. All right. So our next section is it was meant to be more of our discussion. It's the flaws of Jake Skywalker, because at this point we don't even see that as Luke. We see him as Jake. As Mark Hamill has said himself, when he was filming and acting, he had to see this as a different character. This isn't Luke. This isn't his Luke. This is Jake Skywalker. So this is gonna have a couple points, pretty much saying everything wrong with this character, everything that's not Luke, and this is pretty objective, I have to say. All right, so number one, he doesn't care that the First Order is killing billions of people. That's ridiculous. Like, okay, he has all these reasons to not be a Jedi, blah blah. He wants the Jedi to end, blah blah blah. The moment Rey says, "Hey, the First Order is this thing," because supposedly he's been on a rock and he doesn't know shit. So the First Order's out and about, and they just nuked like 5 planets, and they're going about killing billions, and he's just like chilling.
So I always want to be straight with like my audience and everything. So like I did a lot of research on exactly what they were thinking with Luke. I even saw like what the writer of the novel did with Last Jedi.
Okay, yeah.
And literally, when this goes down, it's been confirmed that it broke Luke. He lost faith in the Force at that very moment. Didn't think about.
Oh, when you talk about when he with Kylo.
Kylo, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, and.
So the moment he tried to kill.
Something connected with what you were saying is that at that moment.
That he tried to kill Kylo.
Yeah, and then he wakes up in like the rubble in Last Jedi, and it talks about in the book too. He basically just lost faith in everything. He lost doesn't think about going after Kylo Ren. Doesn't think about fixing that mistake at all. Apparently, and if you really think about it, it's like it's more confirmed in the book. But if you think about it, it's confirmed in the movie. He leaves R2-D2 on that planet, and just gets on his X-wing. And then goes to Achu, which is one of the first Jedi temples.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that's what it was called.
For no reason. So he gives up completely. I like how no one acknowledges. Like I was just thinking, I was putting pieces it together, and I have it written here. But he left R2-D2. That's how little he gave up.
Everything what you're saying now, like the moment you said that he left R2, I'm like, fuck! I just broke. I've broken as a character. That's fucked up, man.
And I think that's just exactly what the problem is that, look, you can have Luke fallen, you can have him lose faith, but the fact that this guy stopped caring about
he just went back on
everything in the world, everything, because he went straight to Achu, and that means that he didn't care that the
bless you, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. He didn't care that the First Order started to grow into this radical thing that started destroying innocent people. They didn't care that the Resistance was struggling. Didn't care that his.
Brother, you're getting ahead of yourself, bro. We have like 20 points here. Can we get to it?
Yeah, but like.
So like number 2 is that he doesn't care about rectifying his mistakes. You know, like even Mark Hamill says it's like a Jedi buckles down and he has tenacity. He comes back. You know, the moment he broke, according to who the fuck said that, by the way. Like some guy who wrote some novel who's tying in 2 books.
If even in the movie, it's
for sure. Yeah,
that's like he broke, but he stops.
That's what happens. Right? Yeah, yeah. Like okay, he broke, and then he goes to this island for whatever fucking reason, some fucking planet, and then Rey tells him, "Yo, your mistakes have led to this, and that." Luke Skywalker would be like, "Yo, let me go get some power converters right quick, and I'm gonna fix this." And no, he just doesn't give a shit. You know, he's like, okay. Number 3. Ryan. Okay, so this is where we got into what you were saying. Rian Johnson said that this moment when he tried to kill Kylo and stopped, this broke him. Okay, I'm sorry, that's not a strong argument for why the best Jedi ever gave up and became broken. Like that's just weak ass writing.
And like in the simplest ways.
Yeah.
Like I don't even want to go into how he could have done it and other things that just. Luke is a master Jedi by now. Like he would have dealt with Kylo's like maybe anger intentions already during the training, like with his training with a bunch of other people. He's dealt with the intentions of Darth Vader, who, let's just sum it down, killed a bunch of little kids in a room.
So I was watching a video the other day that it was talking about this exact same thing. When you're about to kill someone, let's say if you're in an interaction with somebody and you get a real, not a thought. It's not like you saw a knife, like, oh my god, what would happen if I stabbed this person? That's the thought. If you, like Luke Skywalker, if you grab a weapon, and in our example would be like to grab a gun and cock it, you're actually thinking about murdering somebody. That is not okay. That is psychologically not okay. You need to see somebody. You're telling me that Luke Skywalker thought about killing his nephew who hadn't even done anything yet? So you're basically calling Luke a murderer. It's basically what you're saying. Like, yeah, it's a movie and everything's dramatized, but when you really think about it, he was about to kill a kid.
And it's...
Whatever.
If it was... like, but then again, a lot of things have been canonized, but like, if you look... There are Jedis who like struggle with similar things, but like they've always struggled with it. Like they've always had this connection with the dark side, and they weren't properly trained, and they lost their ways.
Yeah,
bro. Like in the universe we have, Luke just hasn't even gone anywhere near that to be this like, oh, I see this guy. Like he's gonna keep literally. You said it. He was like, I'm gonna kill this guy for a minute.
Yeah,
and. Yeah. If you just think about all the things around it, it doesn't make sense.
All right. Like, point number 4, he doesn't care about Han Solo's death or the fact that Kylo killed him and his hand in Solo's death. He trained him, so when Rey tells him, Han is dead. First of all, they cut to the next scene so you don't get to see him mourning, which is bullshit. But we'll get into that later. He doesn't care because in the scene later, he's like, "Go away!" Like. So he doesn't care that Han Solo, his best friend's dead. So we don't get to see Luke mourn, but we get to see Rose Tico mourn her sister. That's great. Point 5. He doesn't care that Leia, his sister, is in trouble.
Yeah, it's been fighting this whole time.
Doesn't care.
Like, this guy didn't even use like plausible like deniability. He could have been like, I don't know, maybe Luke was just cut from communications completely. No.
He doesn't mention it.
No, it's all like straight up. Luke just doesn't care. Like he didn't even try.
Okay, so he went to the first Jedi temple, or one of them, like you said. Why? Why would he go there if he doesn't care?
See, unlike a lot of casual fans, this is actually one of my biggest gripes with not just
missed
Luke,
opportunity.
And it's because as someone who I love Star Wars, guys.
Yeah,
and
I like Star Wars the movies, but Anthony reads the books, the comics,
I play the
games. I just love the movies.
I read both basically the expanded universe and what's coming out now.
The Disney shit.
And this was great potential to go to places, especially on the screen, that we haven't gone before. This could have been the beginning of the Jedi. It is literally like,
could have seen some
talk about
epic shit.
Go to Game of Thrones. It's like the Age of Heroes sort of that kind of stuff.
Valeria.
Yeah. We didn't get nothing.
Beyond the Wall.
We could have had like these like this really cool looking medieval like futuristic Star Wars looking temple with a bunch of like endless opportunities.
Some like Forerunner type shit.
Like, we could have had like him talking to new Jedi character ghosts.
Yeah.
So many. I'm telling you, endless opportunities. We got a tree with 5 books. That ends up.
I love how Yoda shows up then. He decided not to show up any other time.
Not playing even a role. The biggest role in the tree is that it burns and that Rey gets the 5 books.
Alright, man. There is a difference between Luke giving up. This is point 7. There's a difference between Luke giving up completely and giving up on the Jedi. It is one thing to not want to be a Jedi anymore, and another thing not want to help once Rey tells him what happened. Basically, what we're seeing here is that, and we've kind of mentioned this before, that it would have been one thing for Luke to be like, okay, it's time for the Jedi to end. You know, he could have been, I think we talk about this later, but he could have been like a rogue Jedi, a gray Jedi, anything like that. He just decided, nope, none of it. And in the movie, he's like, for the Jedi to end means the good ends. That's vanity. Like, that's not what anyone has ever said.
That's not even what the Force used to be.
But the Jedi used to be.
In the end of the day, like, people would have been just okay if he was at least a rebel. At least he was willing to fight and was caring. He could have, at the end of the day, even if he somehow survived, and he didn't want to be a Jedi anymore, at least he still was a good guy trying to. He just was nothing.
He was just nothing. It's kind of like if you've read Old Man Logan, Wolverine. He decides he's like, I'm not gonna use my claws for a while because of for something that's happened, because he feels bad. They could have gone that route too. Like, Luke is still who he is. He just doesn't want to be a Jedi.
That's an excellent example, because he doesn't use his claws, but he still tries to do good.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. He's still who he is. All right. Next, number 8. He could have been someone willing to help, just lost faith in the Jedi. He could have been a great... Oh, this is what I'll talk about. This is next. He could have been a gray Jedi or a rogue Jedi, and it just would have been a totally better dynamic. Let's just move on, because we already covered that. He said that the Jedi's legacy is failure. Not really, bro. The Jedi brought like hundreds, if not thousands of years of peace. It wasn't until they became, political that shit went to hell.
And for any of you guys that are like arguing like, oh, but they led to this, and guys, if you look at anything and look at real life as great, peace never lasts. You fight for peace. Yeah. And peace is great. You enjoy, if you have a good amount of peace, years of peace, that's awesome. But in the end,
the greater the suffering, the greater the peace.
But in the end, it's inevitable. Some kind of conflict will happen, but then that conflict will end too, and then peace again. It's just normal.
It's called the balance.
Yeah.
Watch the original trilogy, please.
So if you look, I'm sorry, but if you really, really look at it, the Jedi had a pretty
good run, bro.
Pretty good run, guys.
Pretty good run, bro. I wish I could talk to Luke at that point.
And then,
excuse me, sir. Read history, please.
And then besides that, to say that they did step up whenever a conflict came, and did stuff that technically they weren't cool with,
it's like he's saying the Jedi they our next point, it ties into this too. He said the Jedi's legacy was failure, and at the height of their power they trained Darth Vader and allowed Emperor Sidious to take control. Okay, so Rey just told you, homie, that Kylo Ren and Emperor or fucking Supreme Leader Snoke are fucking people up by the billions. So there should be someone to oppose them. So you're saying no Jedi at all or no resistance to this is better than everyone just getting fucked up? It makes no sense. Just let the First Order reign supreme. And then, I'm sorry, no matter how you feel about the Jedi, they are still good people. They might have, in your eyes, failed, but they failed to arguably the strongest dark side user we've ever seen, as Emperor Sidious, who planned this out for years. You gotta cut the Jedi some slack here.
And things did, especially as somebody who's read a lot, shit went horribly wrong for him several times.
Yeah.
He was very behind the scenes, and
Exactly.
If you really put it down, he's also one of the strongest characters to ever exist in the timeline.
Yeah. Yeah, he is, because we'll never know. We'll never know what the fuck Snoke was, so. Alright. Moving on, number 11. This is what you said. Peace never lasts, and neither does war. It's the idealism that matters. So, like Andy said, this guy's talking about peace and war and all this shit, but it's the idea that matters, and that's what the Jedi were. The Jedi were never meant to be soldiers, and that's kind of like where they fucked up in the prequels. They're meant to be keepers of the peace, and it was their idea and their way of life that mattered. That's what is worth saving for the Jedi. And Luke just like, no, peace out, bro.
And to add on to that, which I realize we didn't write a little, but it's the same thing, is that, guys, there's good and bad everywhere, especially if, like in real life, but in the Star Wars universe, it's so, like, for you guys who've seen Clone Wars, there's General Krell, the Jedi turns super bad out of nowhere and literally tries to kill like his own clone troopers and stuff. Great arc. Look with Revan and stuff. Like it's back and forth. Like there's good and bad on both sides. Like that's why I like Game of Thrones. Like
you surrounding me with Jorah Mormont.
And they kind of like Luke was just man, like
lazy writing, bro. Okay, our next point, Anthony already covered. It's the Jedi Temple. It's a missed opportunity. We could have had a million different cool things. People even forget that's where he was. Like, I forget that's where he was in the movie. I think about the movie, I'm like, okay, he's on some island. I always forget. And I think Rian Johnson knew that. I think he just didn't want to call it that anymore because he didn't want to take it anywhere. If you watch the movie, I don't even think he says it.
I think it's one of those things where he kind of said goodbye, Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Like,
all right. Throwing away his lightsaber that belonged to his father, that Obi-Wan Kenobi gave him, that the last time he saw that thing was when he got his arm cut off. Like, and then Rian Johnson just decides to have him throw it out behind him like it was nothing.
Because it's the same. It was several things. It was another thing that a lot of people were like very like interested in, like where that's been.
Yeah. And he just said it doesn't matter.
And it was like the beginning of him saying like it's nothing cool, like subverting, it's just saying no. And that I think fails on a lot of levels because say what you want about Force Awakens, but that ending was epic.
Yeah.
And you can tell that by having different directors, that's where the problem comes in because that was J.J. Abrams' plan. It was to set up this awesome Luke and have this whole she's giving the lightsaber back, and it is filmed amazing. And within the first 5 minutes of this movie, this guy throws it away like nothing.
Yeah, God forbid we got Luke that.
Like imagine watching both these movies back to back.
No, you can't. Number 14, Force projection.
Look. Like I said, I like to play the devil's advocate. It's not impossible. It's happened.
I'm not saying it's impossible.
Just saying, if anyone like it thinks that we're gonna go there and say it's like, but it was done brutally.
Why have him force project there? Why just if you're gonna kill him, why not just put him there? Have him Why couldn't we just have Luke fucking up AT-ATs? Some epic shit, something you could have never seen before ever and never see again. But no, we have Luke force project himself across the galaxy, mock his nephew, give Leia these dice that no one gives a fuck about, and then dust his shoulder off like a fucking cocky sixth grader.
You had mentioned this, I think, a few minutes ago, and this comes back into play, this exact scene you're talking about, is that this guy does write everything just to please his story. Because this whole force projection thing has so many plot holes if you really look at it. Like, let's look at Rose Tico saving Finn. She didn't know Luke was going to come.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, in her mind, the whole Resistance died that day, but Finn's cool. Finn's alive.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't want to get into that.
We'll get into that later.
That's another time.
Yeah.
But besides that, Luke uses the blue lightsaber, and you can tell that was Rian Johnson trying to do some like special he's using his father's lightsaber.
Oh, the lightsaber that he threw away.
But
The one
Kylo Ren just broke this lightsaber.
So
how is Kylo Ren not like, what? And then my favorite thing is that there's inconsistencies with the actual, like, the force projection. Like, he gives Leia the dice, and it's an actual pair of dice, and it's only because
that she can
he
hold.
wanted to, like,
that she can hold.
So he created a plot hole that doesn't make sense for you can think that it's not a projection. Because if he's a projection, everything should be a projection.
Yeah.
Just how his lightsaber doesn't really. That's why he dodges and everything. It's because he knows he's not there. So the whole dicing, doesn't really, like, it's hilarious.
Number 15, giving up on Kylo. So this guy gave up. This guy didn't give up on Darth Vader, but he gives up on Kylo. So he basically gives up on Kylo twice. Tries to kill him, and then he tells him to his face, "I'm not here to forgive you. You're lost," or some shit like that, right? I forgot what he says exactly, but he's basically saying, and then he says, "I'm sorry." Like, what the fuck? No. Who's writing this?
What really bothered me here is that it's another thing. They had great potential. Like, they should have just built off with. Now there's a huge plot hole and inconsistency, like, problem. But if you go to Force Awakens, like, everyone says, "Oh, it's Snoke who made Kylo Ren bad." So going back to what I said earlier, why didn't they just have that Kylo, just like what they explained already? Kylo went bad, converted some of Luke's apprentices, killed the other ones, and the dilemma here is that Luke couldn't bring himself to kill Kylo. You would, like, by doing that, you could have done. Let's just focus on Kylo here. We would have had so much more stuff to do with Kylo. Like,
yeah.
Like, Kylo was such a missed opportunity here. Like, why he just went bad for, like, the weirdest reasons that don't, like, that contradicted
itself. We'll make a whole video on Kylo because Kylo doesn't make any sense.
Like, the epic, like, matchup with him and Luke would have been so much better if it wasn't that, like, Luke just had this, I tried to kill you in your sleep kind of thing.
Alright, 16, our last point is dying like a coward. Luke Skywalker dies alone because he force projected himself across the galaxy, got his force projection stabbed, came back, grabbed his side like it was an appendix or something, and just died.
He had a heart attack, bro. That's it. And
just died.
So
but he was staring at the he was staring at the two suns, so it's good writing. It's homage. Fuck you, Rian Johnson. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that. He didn't have to die. No, like, honestly, he didn't have to die. He just wanted to go in there and kill.
It's like a meme. It's like Luke saw, like, the price of, like, his check out to dinner and died, kind of thing.
Jesus, like, bro.
Like, it's, it's bad because no one. I'm sorry, even if you do like this movie, I respect that. But did you think Luke was gonna die there?
Actually, we have like 5 more points. I forgot we have 5 more.
But
points.
No, like, honestly, did anyone really think that Luke was just gonna fade away there?
It was like it was Rian Johnson wanting to do another fucking subversion of expectations. It was another one. It's like all over the place.
How can you compare that to? Like, another parallel, which I think we don't talk about it, is let's have that Luke versus Kylo scene, that last whole thing, and the way Luke dies. It's obviously Rian Johnson trying to do a ploy or play to the way Obi-Wan died.
Yeah.
But they're completely different in, like, every way. Like, the Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader fight is epic for so many different reasons that the Luke and Kylo Ren fight. They didn't even fight.
Alright, 17. No one had heard of Luke, yet saving 12 people in a cave brought his legend back. And we get to see a little kid playing with a little fucking Luke toy at the end of the movie. That is utter fucking nonsense. Moving on. 18. Rian Johnson's take on Luke in The Last Jedi consists of a character retcon on top of a character retcon. He spends the whole movie telling us Luke is a piece of shit and then makes him into a not piece of shit that's still a piece of shit. The retcon of a retcon of a retcon. Moving on. He's defeated by Rey in single combat.
Oh, Rey's perfect. Rey's...
Luke fucking Skywalker is defeated by Rey. Moving on. Why couldn't we have a badass Luke fucking shit up? We waited years to see what Luke would be like after Return of the Jedi, and this is what we got. Moving on. Number 21. Legacy characters were not treated with any respect This is nothing to do with Luke. It's like, this is just me like ranting. Legacy characters were not treated with any respect, and they're all gone. They're all gone. They're all either dead in real life. God rest her soul, Carrie Fisher. Luke is gonna be a ghost in the next movie, and Han Solo is dead. And they were all just a marketing ploy. That's why we got Luke was a marketing ploy in this movie. Our last point is, how the fuck is this a Skywalker trilogy?
I agree.
How is it a Skywalker trilogy?
I think that's...
There are no Skywalkers left.
That's a great... It's kind of what I was mentioning with the fact that Luke is easily replaceable in the movie. Is that basically, like, look, this is supposed to be a Skywalker trilogy, and I get the whole sort of, like, they want to pass the torch.
Not this way. Not
they
this way.
went 0 to 60, like...
They went 60 to 0.
Like, yeah. Like, you can even say that... I didn't mind Force Awakens. I didn't. Like, Michael mentioned, like, it has its issues. Like, I agree it does rehash stuff. But at the end of the day, it still felt like a Star Wars movie, and it expanded the universe.
Yeah.
And gave endless possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for having new characters, 100%, just not at the expense of the old characters. That's not how you do things. And there's been stories that do that all the time. They have old characters, they introduce new characters, and then the old characters, the new characters earn their spot. That's not what happened here. They have Rey, Finn, and Poe taking over these old roles and shitting on our old characters. Han Solo was a washed out smuggler. Okay, thank you for making our favorite scoundrel a washed out smuggler. Leia doesn't do shit. Luke is a tit sucking hermit.
All right, like,
may the force be with you. Good night.
We'll expand. No, I want to do one more thing really quick, or just really quick, is that a lot of people, they say that, like, you know, this is good character for Luke, but Luke is not, you know, perfect. I get it. Yeah. But what about Rey? And, like, look,
dude, this is a different video.
No, I'm saying, no, like, this is teasing for other videos, but like, there should be a double standard then. If you're gonna have somebody like, if no one can be perfect in your universe, it's kind of funny how you have the way that Rey is. Like, I don't think she's dealt with any moral conflict big, like, in this whole trilogy so far. Who are her parents? Yeah. Everyone have a great night, and I hope you enjoyed some of what we talked about.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for putting up with our rant. It was meant to be a little more scripted, but I think it's a little impossible when it comes to this kind of subject.
I think we did good. Just,
yeah. Anyways, so let us know what you guys think. Do you guys think that Luke Skywalker was treated well? Do you like the way it went? If you agree with us, we'd like to hear that too, obviously. And so we're going to be doing a little more of these. We're probably going to, talk about Rian Johnson more in depth and all the plot holes and all that. What we think is going to happen in the next episode. And so, yeah, we'd like to hear a lot more about what you guys think. Go ahead, Nathan.
And then just to end it, not everything's going to be negative. Like, we do want to do videos on what we think, like, some of the other movies should be about.
Fuck Last Jedi.
No. Let me
just
finish.
kidding. Just kidding.
Like, David Benoff and
there's still some hope. There's still some hope for Star Wars.
I'm very interested in what they do, and with their experience in Game of Thrones, like,
right.
I would love something in Old Republic. I feel like they have the expertise to build, like, world build. Yeah. So what would you guys like to see from the creators of Game of Thrones? Also, we have Jon Favreau from Iron Man. He's making a new movie or a new show. I think. And it's confirmed to be Mandalore after the Empire.
Right. So let us know what you guys think about that. And if there's any topic of Star Wars that you'd like to see us talk about or tackle, please let us know in the comment section. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. And may the force be with you. Because then I'll say